What's good, everybody? How y'all doing? This is Steve with Gate City Sports Channel. Today, we're here with the BGN Network. Got my guy BIRDGANG 31 this way with me. I always forget which side we're on. What's good, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, Gay. How you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to bring the people this concept that we've built up. For some of you guys that don't know, hopefully over the last 2 weeks, it's kind of become apparent that I am now, outside of getting notifications from my phone, I'm now part of the BGN network. I'm excited to work with BIRDGANG 31 on this. And we basically have brainstormed together to come up with a national kind of concept, like the entire NFL concept on Wednesday, so that way we can broaden out, because it's more than just Eagle content creators behind the scenes at BGN. And we're trying to build that community even further. And you know what? I don't mind throwing my knowledge in the ring about other teams and talking. And today's topic, BIRDGANG, I got to tell you, Washington might not want to hear this, but oh boy, they seem to kind of copy the blueprint of the Philadelphia Eagles coming out of their bye week. Yeah. And there's some very similarities between what Washington has done and what Philadelphia has done in the circumstances, too, because, guys, I don't know that I've seen or heard of a team this year that has gone through the rash of injuries that Washington has. Just starting on their offensive line, guys, they end up losing Brandon Shreve, right? He goes out with an MCL sprain, goes down for like 4 weeks, and then ends up being a little iffy when he comes back. Chase Roulier, their center, goes out on IR, done for the season, guys. Ended up breaking his fibula. Not a fun injury to have. Their backup comes in, Tyler Larson. He gets an MCL sprain. So they're on their third string center, guys. And then Sam Cosmi, their rookie they drafted out there at right tackle. He went down recently with a 4-week ankle injury, so he's not even 100% healthy. Man, this team is they faced it, guys. I mean, Curtis Samuel went down with a groin earlier in the year. Yami Brown's been kind of in and out of the lineup with a knee issue. Logan Thomas went down with a hamstring. Like, guys, they were literally throwing out there for a while. This was their wide receiver core. Terry McLaurin, who's excellent, A+ receiver. DeAndre Carter, we know him here in Philadelphia. Dax Milne, he was a draft pick. Adam Humphries, former Tennessee Titan, I believe, and Cam Sims. In the last 2 weeks since their bye week, they got the job done. And man, I got to tell you, it stood out to me how they did it, guys. How they got the job done. That's really stood out to me. So I'll ask you, so what did you know about Washington coming out of the bye week? So what did you know about them kind of the last 2 weeks?
As far as I know, I've just really noticed that Heineke has been playing some good ball lately. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking that he was going to be able to do that. And, they kind of went on a little run there, Gibson been running the ball a lot more lately, like you said. He's another one of them backs, man. Him and a Gainwell, from the same school doing their thing in the NFL right now. Hopefully Gainwell can be as productive as Gibson one day. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll see how it goes. But I'm really interested to see how they do the rest of the season. When you got two guys that they have out right now, like Sweat and Chase Young, that can put a big damper on that defense. So that's what I think their biggest problem will be going down the stretch here against the division games. But hey, man, you know me, I'm not worried about them too much.
What drew my attention was the matchup on last Sunday. You got McCaffrey, and then you turn around and you're taking a look at that football game, that matchup. The Cam Newton thing coming back. I live in Carolina, so I hear a lot of this stuff from the Panther fans. So it drew my interest, right? Because I'm like, Antonio Gibson and McCaffrey matchup, that draws my attention, man. That's got the potential to be a pretty good matchup there. Mm-hmm. So I basically, obviously, after the Eagles game, I kind of wait and I start running the film back on it. Which, by the way, if you guys are not using a VPN to watch Game Pass, good luck, because, man, I can't even watch it. It just glitches like every 5 seconds. But nonetheless, I'm like watching the game and I'm like, wow, like Washington looks different. Mm-hmm. So then I start digging. I do what Gate does, man. I start digging into the numbers. And I'm like, okay, like the first thing that stood out to me was I was looking at 8-man boxes. 8-man boxes tells me what the defense thinks of your run game and what it thinks of your offense in general, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, how much 8-man boxes are they facing? Well, in the season, Antonio Gibson's about 19.48, so just under 20%, which ranks about 27th out of 48. So we'll just say he's somewhere in that middle, back into the middle of the running backs. But last week, they knew what they wanted to do in Carolina. I think they were really spying. I think it was more so on Heineke, but just by default, that brought 8 men in the box against Antonio Gibson. 42%. 42% of the plays that were run last week were with 8-man boxes.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, like that was the second highest. And he was by far the most productive of anyone playing that kind of 8-man box front. So I was like, okay, let me dig into this. This draws my interest, right? And then I started finding out about the injuries, and I'm like, wow, like they're actually, they got some issues in protection from the passing game. You can tell when they don't, when they just try to drop back and pass and they don't go spread and they don't try to get the ball out quickly, like they can get themselves into trouble pretty quickly. But what I will say is that when I was watching the running game looked pretty good to me, and I was, what? No, like this is eerily reminiscent of the Eagles, of like, you got something that can work, and you just refused to use it for over half the season.
Yeah,
which they held out longer than we did, to be quite honest, with using their running game. So I started looking into everything, and then I noticed efficiency markers. So the lower your number is in efficiency markers, that means you're more of a north and south runner. The higher the number means you get a little bit more towards stretching it east to west, okay? So I was like, okay, 42% 8-man boxes, were they making him move laterally? Not really. 3.34 was his ranking, which ranks 9th. Just for reference for Eagle fans, because I know primarily our audience here is going to be Eagle fans, but just for reference for Eagle fans, when you compare that to what the Eagles have with Miles Sanders, it's 3. So that ranks him 5th overall. And in Jordan Howard, who's the person we expect, 2.49, which is 2nd overall. So you got a north and south runner to an extent here, facing 8-man boxes. And I just wanted to know, how you getting this? Like, how are they getting the production? Like, you got a banged up offensive line that, to my surprise, when I went to go look at the run block grade, they're rated 5th. They're actually above Philly in run block.
Whoa.
Which that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, boy, we get on our coaching staff. That one's kind of hard to justify, man. Right. And then the other thing I noticed was the run grade. So the run grade is like how you run, like how you're grading like each of the running backs and what they're doing, basically. But that ranked 29th. And I have reason to believe, much like Philly, that has a lot to do with utilization. Or should I say the lack of utilization? Because here's the dividing line, guys, and I'm going to get my guy BIRDGANG's thoughts on some stuff. The 3 weeks prior to their bye week in week 9, they played the Kansas City Chiefs. Antonio Gibson touched the ball 10 times for 44 yards. Played the Green Bay Packers. Antonio Gibson touches the ball 14 times for 51 yards. But I will say, just to note on Green Bay, Tyler Heineke went off he had 10 carries himself for 95 yards. So there's a little bit more run there, but I think that was more so just eluding pass rush and getting out of there. Denver. Now we have a shin issue. We got an injury pops up with Antonio Gibson. As a result of that, he doesn't really carry the ball that much. I think he was only at like 11 carries for like 46 yards or something like that. I mean, he wasn't utilized as much. And then they go into the bye week, guys. They come out of the bye week in the past 2 weeks. This is what their rushing numbers have looked like with Antonio Gibson. Week 10 against Tampa Bay. 24 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ooh. Last week against Carolina, 19 carries, 95 yards. With them playing 8-man boxes to try to stop, because obviously they're really running nobody out there at receiver outside of Terry McLaurin.
Do they use fullback there?
Not from what I saw. So when I watched the Carolina game and I watched the Tampa Bay game, I did not see any kind of lead block, but they will use they have a tight end there, John Bates. I don't know if this kid was drafted or if he's an undrafted rookie free agent. I know he's a rookie. Pretty good blocking tight end, I can tell you that, man. He gave a lot of effort, and they used him in a lot of unique ways. And that was pretty interesting to see how they were using this guy. But they use their tight ends some ways as kind of a lead, but it's not the traditional split or eye set or anything like that. So no, they don't really go lead back. So they're not. It's not like they're coming out there playing 2-back sets or anything. But I mean, it was interesting to see, because I'm sitting here watching it, and I had to call it out, man. Scott Turner, who's the offensive coordinator there, is Norv Turner's son. This guy had really hardly any experience, guys. I mean, this guy was an interim offensive coordinator in Carolina. To be honest, before that, I mean, he had a year or two as a quarterback coach, a year or two as a receiver coach. We think Nick Sirianni's resume was a little bare.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the Turner family and having, I think his uncle was a coach. I think he coached somewhere in Florida. Norv Turner is his father. He's got a cousin that coaches for the Cardinals. He's on the Cardinals coaching staff. So, I mean, the family is sure that, it comes from a coaching family, but the resume, you know what I mean? Like the resume was like, wow, like there's not a lot to this. It's interesting to see because they've won 2 straight games.
Yeah.
And we don't play until like pretty much the week before Christmas is the first game between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, can we go New York by Washington, right?
Yep. I have a feeling, my hunch is this game's going to have importance because their schedule, it ain't that tough. Their schedule up to us is not really that tough, guys. I mean, you can call you can call Las Vegas kind of tough, but I don't think that the Las Vegas Raiders team that we played is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders teams that Washington's going to play. I think that team was just a glitch in the matrix, if you will. I don't think that exists anymore. So I really think that matchup, especially if Dallas starts doing that December slide that they seem to do.
Mm-hmm.
If Dallas starts sliding down the season, that game could become really interesting because it looks like 2 teams that are deadlocked onto something meaningful, meeting each other. Now
they're 1 game behind us right now, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, both teams got to take care of business. Both of us have to take care of business.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at our schedule and say that these are wins, but that's why a game's played on Sunday. But the schedules are very favorable for both football teams. I honestly think this is going to be a very interesting matchup here. And
do you know their strength of schedule? Because weren't we like second overall?
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to like strength of schedule. So I just kind of look over who they are and I try to judge from the system and fit and how teams kind of match up with those. But their schedule is they have the Seahawks, why they have Russell Wilson on Monday night. That Seahawks team is not the same Seahawks team it was a year or 2 ago. It's on a crash course for basically being a top 10 draft team.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have Vegas on Sunday at 4:00. That they're road, so they're at home. Then they go on the road. They do have Dallas on December 12th before getting Philly. I got to be honest. Dallas is known for slipping in December, and there are times that they struggle to close out the Washington football team.
I'm hoping they slip tomorrow.
Yeah. So I'm really looking at that, and that could be a very intriguing football game because I don't think that earlier on when you looked at that schedule, you probably thought, boy, the Seahawks, the Raiders, and then the Cowboys going into Philly. Ooh, that's a rough slate of games. It doesn't look that bad anymore. It doesn't. It looks like that could be a marquee game between Washington and Philly, especially if Washington's coming off a win over Dallas. If that happens, man, this could be a completely different. The whole setup could be completely different, and who knows? Who knows how it's going to play out? But
and then being Eagles fans, you kind of want them to beat Dallas.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because as long as we keep pace, I think our road to their game is a lot easier than their road to that game. You know what I'm saying? Like the Giants should be a win. You know what I'm saying? The Jets definitely should be a win. We go in our bye, and then we come back and get them. So that's a lot better than Vegas, Cowboys, and Seahawks. Like that's a gauntlet there. But like you said, they pick up some of these games, man.
Yeah, and the last 2 games have been, a not so secret formula to how they won these football games. They've won them through really solid defensive play in a stable running game. That's how they won these games. Because Tampa Bay, I mean, I thought they were going to get thumped by Tampa Bay. I'm going to be honest. And they hung in there, and they lost Chase Young in that game. That's what first brought the injuries to my notice is that, oh, man, Chase Young. And then I kind of, I started digging after I saw like they kind of had, coming out and got that win. I was like, man, what? And I saw all these rash of injuries, and I was like, ooh, I got to give Ron Rivera credit, man. He knows how to get guys to play. Like he definitely knows how to get guys to play. And I'm looking at everything, and I'm watching their game. And since we were talking, I will say this: I did pick up a few tendencies from Washington. Number one, on third downs, especially depending on the distance, when it's normally like 3rd and 4, a little bit greater, they do like to go kind of empty back set spread. I did notice that about their team. They like to get the ball out pretty quickly. And then I will say that that defensive line, though, for Washington, is not necessarily a tendency. It's just just an observation. It's played pretty good the last 2 weeks. Last week, it was pretty good against Carolina with, and I know Carolina doesn't have the greatest offensive line, but they played really well minus Chase Young. They were really good. They were really good.
Who are the ends now that Chase and Sweat's not there?
I'm not sure. Like, I guess we could take a look real quick and see. Let me see their snap count. But Payne, oh my man, he had an amazing game last week. I was actually, and they have a lot of interior talent on that depth chart there. So I mean, it's not like they're. Let me take a look here. Summary. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to scroll down and see by the weeks and matchup. They don't do like Phillies is really easy to find because everybody tracks ours.
Yeah.
Let's go week 11. But yeah, I mean they're definitely it's interesting. Carolina versus Washington. No, it's the Panthers. So
see, they're kind of like us though too. Their two in the middle are really good. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, who was it again? Payne, you said?
Yeah, Payne's the guy who went off last week in terms of like how well they played. Let me go to lineups.com, man. I should be able to pull up and see by the week and just see who's getting the majority of their snap shares. See, they're only showing week 8 here, so they haven't even fully caught up, to be honest with you. Hang on, let me see here. Let me change it over. So let's see. Chase Young clearly was leading theirs. They have Jonathan Allen and Payne. Is that Payne and Allen are there too? Obviously, Montez Sweat being out and everything, guys, it's going to affect them. So they have James Smith-Williams, who's a really athletic defensive end. Actually, he played at NC State. I'm very familiar with James Smith-Williams. And they have Casey Toohill.
Don't we know that guy?
Yeah. They have another guy. I can't pronounce his name. Ratumi? I don't know how you say his name. But they have a couple of guys that I'm familiar with. Obviously, we know Casey Toohill, and I know James Smith-Williams. He was a very athletic guy. He was like one of those guys that used to make the freak list for athleticism. Mm-hmm. Very athletic guy. So, I mean, I think the interior is holding them to where that defensive, outside rotation just kind of is holding up. It's doing okay. I wouldn't call it great by any stretch of the imagination, but, it's good enough to where it's making a difference, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Those guys, they still, I feel like I said before, even though like that they're doing good or whatever with Toohill and those boys, I feel like our offensive line really, like, not even Cowboys. I don't care about Parsons. I don't care about, Washington, the Big Cat in New York. None of those guys. I think when our offensive line is gelling and going good, we should be able to run over all those guys, man. Like I said, ever since we beat the number 1 defense, like if we would have ran 100 yards on them, that would have been a victory over the number 1 defense. But the fact that we went 250 on them, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a whole nother level. That means these boys are in full, full game mode, you know what I'm saying? Full season swing of things in terms of run game. And that's going to be hard for anybody to stop. So, as much as, you got to give these guys credit, because they did beat Tampa Bay and we lost to them, and that's a big deal. Yeah. I still feel like we should be all right there.
Philly Girl 76, what's up? Long time no see. So, I mean, look, Antonio Gibson, what stood out to me on the film about him when I was watching him is he's a bigger guy. Like, he's not a small guy. He's not a small back. But, man, his ability to cut, his cuts, they're clean, man. He can cut. He really, can shake you inside tight spaces. And I'll be honest with you, man, McKissick had a really good game last week, too. Really good third down in terms of, like, picking up blitzes, stuff like that. I thought he had a really solid game for them. And, to be honest with you, early on in that game, Gibson put the ball on the ground and pretty close. I think it was pretty close to a goal line situation. I think they were definitely inside the red zone when he put it on the ground. It was early in the game. And, they went to McKissick and those guys for a little while. Then in the third quarter, you just kind of saw Antonio Gibson take over. No. And I'll be honest with you, their passing game, man, it's interesting to watch the passing game because, McLaurin's he's a great football player. We all know McLaurin's a good player.
Yeah,
But, you know,
Scary Terry been doing good.
I thought I saw De'Ami Brown in there for a couple of reps, but I know he was coming back off an injury himself. But De'Ami Brown's still not 100%. I think he still was coming back from a knee issue he had. So, you know, I thought I saw him in there a couple times, but I don't think he registered a target or catch or anything. So, I mean, they were just, DeAndre Carter and Adam Humphries and Cam Sims. Cam Sims caught a touchdown for them. Like, they were just, honestly, like, sometimes it's hard to match up against guys like that. It's very reminiscent of 2019 Eagles when we had to bring Greg Ward Jr. in and Boston Scott in. We had the guy Perkins at tight end. Like, and it's kind of hard. In a way, it's like, well, these guys are nowhere near as talented as the guys that are out. But in the same breath, you really don't know much about those guys, so it becomes really difficult to actually know their strengths, their weaknesses, know exactly what to expect from them. Of course, that forced the Eagles into changing their game plan with Doug and with Carson. It's not to what Washington's doing since their bye week. We didn't quite go into that, but nonetheless, you could see those little things kind of coming together here with them. So, I mean, Antonio Gibson, I got to give him credit, man. Like, that was a guy that when I did the draft profiles last year in 2020, I was high on Antonio Gibson. I really they went over a few guys. They drafted a few guys that I actually did profiles on, which was kind of fun. But Antonio Gibson was probably the only one of the guys that they drafted that I actually wanted. I actually thought he'd be a really good fit in Philadelphia. But I mean, they're having success, man. They're having success with the very basic way of operating an offense. And I got to be honest with you.
You got to simplify things to make things look better. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. I think when they hear all the hype where they want it to be this passing league, coordinators get too overwhelmed with trying to find out new passing ways to keep passing the ball 30 and 40 times a game. But at the end of the day, it's about running that ball. You know what I'm saying? As long as you line it up, run that ball, man, that opens up all the passing. So, like, even when they have the thing with Jalen Hurts, you're talking about, he doesn't pass that much, but it's like he doesn't have to. He's like a game manager, but he's a upgraded version of a game manager because he also can make so many plays throwing and running the ball. So that's what I think. The teams that try to get all cute with it and try to overpass, I think those are the ones that are going to lose down the stretch. You know what I'm saying? It's the winter time. It's time to run the ball. People don't like the cold air. It's hard to breathe in the cold air. So just keep pounding that ball. And like you said, you're starting to see Washington do that a lot more, and we're doing it a lot more. So we should see what happens when we get down to that test of like who can keep the ball longer to keep that other defense off the field. You know what I'm saying? When you got good defensive line, you want to definitely keep those boys off the field as long as possible.
What's up, Ready Red? You say we're not going to lose to Dallas. Right now, Dallas is soft. This Eagles team would eat them alive. I'm going to tell you right now, this Eagles team would eat them alive because we would run it right at them, and there's nothing they could do to stop it.
That was the biggest. That was the biggest problem in the game going with Dallas. We didn't run the ball. Yeah. If we would have ran that ball that day, I don't think the game would have been as bad. You know what I'm saying? We can't. That was in our face. Like, you guys got us when we weren't even running no real offense. You know what I'm saying? We were still in that vanilla 4-play, 6-play offense mode. And I think, after that's kind of where we kind of start popping out of that. So it's definitely going to be a lot tougher for you guys to get another W against us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch here because, for so long, and it didn't look good early, man. The Eagles weren't playing well. Washington really was a disappointment from, the year prior. And, they went out, they got De'Ami Brown. They went out, they got Curtis Samuel. And, they have Antonio Gibson. They have McKissick. And it's like, man, they spend their draft picks to get, Sam Cosmi and to shore up their offensive line. It's like, boy, that's a dud offensively, even though Tyler Heineke's playing pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, the Giants spent all this money and all this stuff they did in the offseason. And, I mean, that's fallen flat on their face, unfortunately for them.
Hey, that's because they got Danny Goose Stamps.
Yeah, it's funny, bro. It's funny, man. It's funny that all of a sudden, teams start to figure out, like, simplify it. What are we doing? Like, simplify things and stick to what we're good at doing. And now teams are getting caught because, man, I got to be honest with you. Washington should not have beaten Tampa Bay, and the Saints should have been able to shut us down. But both teams simplified things, and that didn't happen. when both teams played to their strengths, they beat two good quality football teams.
Facts.
And that's that's kind of, it's a testament to like sometimes and I know this, I've coached myself before. Sometimes you can do too much as a coach. Like you can try to get too creative in your scheme, right? You can try to just you're awake at late at night and you're trying to and like things are going through your head and you're like, yeah, I'm going to design this up, and you just forget like what your team's actually good at, what its identity is. You forget the strengths of your team at times, man. You start, sometimes you believe in a guy, right? It's faith in a guy. And you're like, I want to get this guy involved in my offense. I'm going to create some unique ways of getting this person involved in my offense. And then pretty soon you start realizing, yeah, but it's to the detriment of the entire team.
Yeah.
And I think for Philly in particular, we face some of that. I mean, I haven't watched all of Washington this season, but I watched the general trends here, and I can see now they don't have like, well, no, they got some 10, 11. Yes. I mean, they definitely got some games where they didn't really stick to the run either. But it's
and even Dallas's last loss,
yeah.
They didn't really stick to the run there. They kind of went to the pass mode with Dak.
Ready, red, man. Even your team at full strength, bro. Defensively, you're soft. It doesn't matter, man. Your D line is not going to be able to. It's not going to be able to hang. You're going to have to put up. You're going to have to put up 50 offensively. And if this team's running the ball, it's going to be pretty hard to do that because they're going to drain the clock on you.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
The team y'all played in week 3 is the team y'all played in week 3 is a completely different football team.
We're running it and controlling the clock and putting points up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not the same team.
We scored 40 a couple times. We scored 30, the high 30s. We're putting up some numbers right now, whether the defense helps us or not.
Yeah, Deontay Cole to tell you this, but you're only going to be resting those starters in week 18. You're going to be playing for a spot.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, you guys have a bad habit of slipping in December. Every year it happens. Every year it's the same song and dance.
Fall to Vegas tomorrow, they're in some trouble for that division. Because now you done let everybody get that much closer to you. Now everybody's going to be itching to get it now. It's like when you guys are 3-4 games ahead, everybody's like, oh, man, Dallas got it. We just got to ride with it. But, every time you guys slip, we win, you guys slip, we get that much closer. Then what? We are at what? Dallas 7 wins right now. We're at 5. So they're 2 games ahead. They lose tomorrow. If they lose tomorrow, then we only be 1 game behind.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good
Deontay
for them.
Cole, like, do you even remember? Do you remember the Mike McCarthy era in Green Bay and how it ended? With him being so disconnected to football, he was getting massages. Like, come on, man. The dude's not above suspicion himself. Like, be honest with you. I'm just saying. I don't know that just vacates itself because of just because you changed out Jason Garrett. I don't think that vacates, man, just because of that move. Now, I will say that you guys have found a couple players on defense. It's just that your defensive line is soft, man. You have to admit your defensive line is incredibly soft. It just is. It's in fact. I mean, you got players out there. I'm not saying you don't have players. I mean, you found something.
Diggs is a baller, but at the time
you found something at corner, Diggs. Yeah, you found something
like Diggs.
But
the time we played him the first time, like Diggs is a way better cornerback than anybody we had. You know what I'm saying at that time. But now I'm saying Slade's better than Diggs right now because Slade's the top corner right now. He doesn't get no 100-yard balls on him. He has 3 defensive touchdowns so far. I feel like he has 4. I know he had 2 pick six, and I thought he had 2 fumble recoveries to the house.
Yeah, this team is different, really, because Denver's not a good team, man, and they thumped you. They thumped you good physically. So I'm not too sure y'all are that different, man. I'll be honest with you. I still think deep down it's the same exact team that Garrett had. I think Dak's better. I think Dak's a really good quarterback. I think he got a heck of a receiving core. But when you were committed to the run, you were doing something. But I don't know, man. And we deal with this in Philly too, because I'd be sitting here lying to you if I told you that part of me doesn't get suspicious that sometimes that we're just gonna abandon the run again, just because I know how this team can be at times. Like, my thing is as an Eagle fan, I can't speak for your behalf, but until otherwise proven, you are what you've been. Like,
Yeah.
you got to prove otherwise first, and you ain't proved anything yet, man.
He said, "What happened when we played y'all then?"
You played us in week 3, my guy. How many teams lost in week 1 that are cruising right now?
Yeah.
It's not.
Look,
You're talking about the
Kansas
first
City now. They're balling right now.
Yeah.
And they sucked back in those days. Week 1, 2, and 3.
If you think the team you play in week 3 is the same as you're going to play in week 18, it's not. It's not, my guy. I hate to tell you, it's just not. It's a different team. It's a completely
Like, we're
different
the
team.
number 2 rush team in the NFL. And we just beat the number 1 rush defense. And then the Broncos were really high, too, at rush defense. And we ran all over both of those guys. And I feel like we got the backs to keep running. You know what I'm saying? Even though, Howard's down, whatever. I think Miles Sanders came back the right time because Howard's down. Miles gets to take over the lead role.
Mhm.
And he's going to do his thing against them. Even last week, you see Miles Sanders have, 16 carries, 94 yards. Howard had 18 carries for 65 yards. Howard was the guy. But you see the difference in skill level when you got a guy like Sanders, he can gain that many more yards. He's more explosive. So I think everybody got to be on notice right now. This league, the division can get a lot closer coming down the stretch. Maybe without the Giants, maybe, because especially we beat the Giants now, they're going to be dead in the water. But Washington football team, Cowboys, us, coming down that stretch, all these division games are going to really matter, coming down the stretch, especially that week 17 against the Cowboys. By that time, we should already know who's going to be the division champion. That game could be for the division championship. You know what I'm saying? It might even be one of those scenarios where it's for the division championship. Whoever wins that just gets a higher seeding, and you end up facing each other the next week again in a wild card game.
Yeah. What's my record versus Dak? 0-0. I've never played Dak personally, but you're trying to use inflated numbers because some of those wins that Dak's gotten against the Eagles is when we've already clinched. So, I mean, you can take those if you want, but facts remain the last 5 years we've hoisted a Lombardi. You're still reading freaking books about the last time you did. Like, just be real, man. That team has not been good in the last decade. It hasn't been good really this century. Just be honest.
For me, with the Cowboys, I feel like they always start out hot. That's just their thing.
Yeah.
They get an off-season and paper champs. They start out hot. And then, like you said, November, December, always every year, they do whatever they can to, really mess themselves up at the end of that season.
Yeah.
How many division champs?
Red, you've got a chance. I mean, you should win. You should win tomorrow. If you lose against Vegas, you got to have to come up in here and admit you were definitely wrong. Your team is straight trash right now. And I'm not saying that it'll continue that way, but it's in a tailspin if you lose tomorrow.
And you said you were good for 2 years. That's it. What are you talking about? We went to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. How many times did you guys go to the playoffs?
We still have the most division titles.
Yeah.
In the 2010 era. So your whole comment doesn't make any sense.
And no, it's not because you just lost 3 games of your chopped liver. It's just the point that every year, this is when you start losing those games.
Yeah. It's the time that you lose them, man. It's the time frame in which you lose them, and it's the way that you're losing them. Mm-hmm. You're losing them because teams are just really running right over you. They're out physically you. And it's the same story every year around this time of year with you guys. And look, like I said, man, if you beat Vegas, you got a chance to really pull ahead in the division and then take your foot off the throttle a little bit just because, the only thing you're really going to be fighting for is jockeying for a position, which I don't think you're going to get the number 1 wild. I don't think you're going to get the number 1 playoff spot. So without the number 1 playoff spot, the number 2 playoff spot doesn't really mean too much anymore. You get home field for your game or two, but at the end of the day, you don't get the bye week anymore as being a 2 seed. So, unless some other teams take a couple of surprising losses, man. But if you lose to Vegas, it's time to panic.
Yeah, because you guys look at what our schedule is sharp and soft, man. Like, we should be full steam ahead for Dallas week 17. Like, none of these teams should slow us down. Our momentum is so high. you know, right now. I feel like we're just going to keep climbing each game by game, climb, and we're going to be that much better for the Dallas game. You know, and I give you guys the respect, you know, enough to know that that is the last tough team we play on our schedule. I'm not buying the Washington thing. I don't care who they beat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not buying it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have the
Without,
most talented, from top to bottom, you're the most talented roster in the East. But
yeah,
for some weird reason, you guys just you don't put it together.
yeah.
There were some years when you had Romo there, to be honest with you, you had a top 2 or 3 team in the league in terms of the talent, and you just couldn't win with it, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, look, I look at it this way, man. Depending on circumstances of games, and you're asking, like, not you, Red. That was somebody else. It was a Cowboy fan. I think that might have been Deontay Cole. You're asking, what has the Eagles been? But that's the thing. We're not claiming we're anything else than what we are. We're a young football team that's found a physical identity and has got a little bit of momentum. Both of us have just said we're not 100% convinced we're going to stick to that identity. We don't know. Like,
Yeah.
We hope they do, but it goes to the point I said earlier, until otherwise proven. Until otherwise proven, this team loves to throw the football. It hearts throwing the football. The last 4 weeks or so, we've fallen into a running identity. We'll see, man. When their backs get up against the wall, will they stick to it? I don't know. That's
And how you
still
can
to be
say
seen.
that your only flaws have been coaching. That was our flaws the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the season, was coaching. You know, they got out coached a lot of those games. Not that we didn't have the talent to win. We were in great position a lot of those games to beat some of those good teams. You know what I'm saying? We only ended up 2-4, so we can't be like, oh yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But if you want to bring up the coaching side of it, we have two first-year offense and defensive coordinators. You know what I'm saying? First-time head coach.
Yeah.
You know, those guys were struggling to find identities on their team, what they really want to do. And now we found it. So it's a big difference. You see us blitzing a lot more. We didn't even blitz when we played you guys. We didn't run the ball when we played with you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why it was so horrible. But we are definitely a different team. And the coaching is like, you know what to get from your coach. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand what you're saying, Reddy. I understand what you're saying, Red, but I disagree to an extent, man. Because I get that Jason Garrett was hard-headed and refused to innovate his offense more. And there was a time that, let's be fair here, there was a time that Jason Garrett was looked to as being a very innovative offensive mind. Really, that's kind of how you guys stuck to him to keep him there, because you were afraid someone else was going to snatch him. But to be fair, yes, I agree. He did not keep innovating. He got really, really dead set on what he wanted to do offensively, no matter if it fit the players, fit the talent around him or not. I agree with that standpoint. But I can't say that your entire coaching was bad. Like, that coaching staff under Garrett still largely developed Dak Prescott too. So, I mean, it's tough, man. It's hard to say that, man. Like, they've had ups and downs. They had a lot of talent, and they've lost games. I agree. But they had developed players too. So,
I have no cap on the Cowboys.
Coaching,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys
coaching
been better this year. You got a better record right now. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing against that. The only thing we're saying is, like, I think a lot of Cowboy fans get pumped up, you know, because of it. But you're the Cowboy fan. You should already know that this time of season, things go bad for you guys. So my deal with the Cowboy fans, before you guys coming out all pumped up that you guys got more wins, is how about we see what happens through November, December before you get so pumped up. You know, I know you want to get pumped up because, you know, you're a fan or whatever, but at the same time, this is your time where you guys fall and you're starting to see these losses coming. The last 2 losses you guys were really bad. You know, Dak looked horrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, the team looked bad on offense, period. You know, that's,
and if Dak starts to slide, you're in a lot of trouble. Because Dak is, I'm sorry, offensively. Yeah, I mean, offensively, he's the person you really game plan for. I mean, don't get me wrong, Amari Cooper is a stud at wide receiver, man. CeeDee Lamb, stud at wide receiver. Even your third receiver, I can't think of his name, the kid that came out of Colorado.
Gallup's back.
Yeah, Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup. You know, on other teams, he's a solid number 2, and on some teams, he's a number 1. But, you know, you can take a receiver out of a game plan. You can keep a receiver from the end zone by what you do defensively. Quarterbacks can really make or break you, man. So can good quality coaching. And you guys have a really good offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator is not giving enough credit, but you guys are struggling recently, man. It's been a struggle for you guys of late. I mean, look, we empathize with you.
Yeah.
We had like a 3-week span that it was almost impossible to watch our games. Like,
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
beginning of the
we
season
empathize,
was
man.
horrible. To come out live every single week to say the same thing over and over again. You know, well, we didn't run the ball. Well, we didn't blitz nobody. Well, we didn't put no pressure on nobody. Well, our coaches only ran 5 plays. You know, like that was horrible. But it doesn't really matter what you do in the beginning of a season, especially when you got a 17-game season. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like those first 6 games, that's when everybody were down on us the most. You know, but that's what they're supposed to. You know, like as fans, you're gonna get down on your team for not winning. And that's when everybody was down on us. But you know, there was still a lot of season left, man. I never lost hope. Like I already said from the beginning. My first video I said 11-6. Then I started drinking the Kool-Aid, so I was like 13-4, 12-5. But then I always said no matter what, the floor was 7 games. I was like, Jalen Hurts would not lose more than 7 games in a season. And I've stuck firm with that, and we still got a game to give up for that one. So I still believe it. I don't think we're going to be 10-7, worst case scenario, or we're going to be 11-6, and that means we win out the rest of these games, and I can see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, this is going to be like the Giants are struggling coming into this game, but I can tell you this: they're going to have renewed interest in beating us just because of the way things shook out last year. Like, I know that they feel some kind of way because they feel like we basically gave Washington the division, and to be quite honest, we kind of did. But I also feel like you want the division, then win the requisite games to take it. It's kind of the way I feel about that.
And it's like you guys can't even be mad at us. We fired the coach that did it.
Yeah. And then we jumped them for Devontae Smith. So I mean, I know that they're going to have renewed interest and they're going to be pumped up to play the game. But I don't know, man. And look, they're catching a break. We're without Jordan Howard. They're definitely catching a break.
No.
I still feel like that we're going to find a way to beat them.
Yeah, because we got Miles
Sanders back.
Like I said,
the Giant Killer. So
as much as I respect Howard for what he's done this year, because I was never really that big on Howard, I respect him for the last 4 games for sure. He ran tough, he ran hard. Even last game, he was running hard, doing this thing. But Miles Sanders is back, and now we're running the ball. The whole thing we wanted last year for Miles is to give him some handoffs. Give him 15 carries a game, give him 15, 20 carries a game, touches a game. Didn't happen. This whole year, all the way up until he got hurt, same thing. Didn't happen. So everybody's like, oh, Miles must suck now. You know what I'm saying? But then you see when Boston and Howard got the ball, our running game looked great. And I'm telling you, that's because our offensive line. We got one of the monster offensive lines again. You know what I'm saying? Those guys are some big boys, and they're definitely opening up holes right about now. They all got chemistry now. There's been 3 or 4 really good games where they got chemistry together, and they're moving people. And as long as you do that, I don't care what back you got. You can give the ball to Gainwell, and he's going to gain some yards behind them boys, And I just think with Miles back, he's more of an explosive runner, and he's going to definitely tear it up the rest of the season. To be honest, if you give Miles 15, 20 touches a game, his rushing yards number is just going to go keep climbing. Because especially with the teams we're playing too. Like that's what a lot of people don't realize about the first half too compared to now. The teams we play were all playoff teams, man. They're all like top flight teams. Kansas City, San Francisco, the Cowboys, Chiefs. Those are all good teams we lost to. Like those are some top flight teams. The Chargers, when we were learning,
I don't know what Eagle
hard teams while learning.
Yeah, I don't know what Eagle fans you're referring to, but I can tell you with 100% positivity, wasn't me. I called Nick Sirianni's hiring before it happened. I told everyone that Nick Sirianni, there were struggles, he was making mistakes. He's a good coach. He's going to get it together. So it's not all Eagle fans, man.
And like you said, my chest is a little pumped out because we're set number 2.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not run the ball for 6 weeks, right? Not run the ball for 6 weeks worth of a season, and then just out of 4 games in the rest of that, you're number 2 in the league. You know what I'm saying? Number 2 in the league in rushing. We're more than you guys. And you guys got Zeke. You guys got Pollard. We did it with Jordan Howard, Jalen Hurts, and Boston Scott. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got our chests a little pumped out. I do a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Because I just don't feel like no one's going to stop this run. And that keeps the defense off the field. And when our defense is fresh, they're ballers. Have you not seen all the turnovers we've been getting? You guys, when we played you guys were getting all the turnovers. Now, we're getting all the turnovers against the teams that we're playing. You know?
Yeah.
It's because you guys started out running the ball with Zeke and Pollard a lot. And that's why your defense was fresh every time they came out on the field. And the more you guys got Dak back into rhythm, you know, when that's the one thing about signing a top flight quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Because once you give them that money, you feel like they have to throw the ball a lot. You know what I'm saying? They have to earn that paycheck. Kind of like what we did with Carson Wentz. When we gave Carson that money, he started firing 40, 50 times a game. You know what I'm saying? That's not what you do. Just because you pay a quarterback for being good, you cannot change your offense to just, you know, passing the ball all the time. I mean, you're not going to win, not in this league. You look at every number 1 team that's going, you know, all the best teams in NFL right now, they run the ball, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I just give you my background, Deontay Cole. I've coached for over 10 years, mostly quarterbacks and receivers, a little bit of corners here and there. I've scouted 2 years at the FCS level. I've run multiple camps. Like, I understand the game at a level most people don't. I've been honest with the Eagles. I was the one who said that Milton Williams was a bit of a reach in the 3rd round. I took a lot of crap on draft night when I said that. And I basically shot back in the comments and told them most of these guys had never watched film on Milton Williams. So they didn't realize that he was a really good pass rush prospect, interior pass rusher, but had some serious issues holding up to run defense. Gauges his hips well, gets moved out of zone because he just can't anchor well. Just can't hold it. When you looked at BYU, when you looked at Marshall, the better offensive lines he played, he got moved. He got moved out of his gap. It was quite obvious on film. I called all that out. I told people, Steven Nelson, still the 2nd best corner on the Eagles. There was no doubt about that. The minute he signed, I said he'd be the 2nd best corner. I also pointed out, highly overrated by Eagle fans. I was the first one to call that one out for everybody. I made a video, and I dealt with some people who were like, yo, Gay, I didn't know this. Now you're showing me this. I am worried. And I had other people that, he's going to be better than Slay.
I was worried before we started talking about signing the game.
Yeah. It's like, no, he's not. Like, I told people TJ Edwards was probably our best linebacker, and I was not originally a TJ Edwards guy. So for me to admit that means, look, I've watched this guy's development. I see what this kid can do. He's clearly, right now, he's the best linebacker we had, with Davion Taylor being the highest ceiling guy we had. Took a while for the Eagles to get around to that, but they seem to come to the same realization. Like, look, Jalen Hurts. I told people all offseason, I told them, look, man, this young man is incredibly talented, but he does struggle to read coverage. He does struggle to play on time and on schedule with the offense. I showed the deficiencies. I showed what Dallas did to him last year, how y'all dropped into a Tampa 2 on him, and what it did to him. I brought people on the channel to talk to people about this. But I've also stood my ground to say the young man's improving. And this young man is starting to really pick it up and start to look like a guy that you keep long term.
And now everybody's numbers are backing that up, man. Every week, you know, you see the news people come out and they're like, hey, through 10 games, through 11 games, through 12 games, through 14 games, this guy's top 10 number wise, and all the, you know, all the stats there. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts is just, time is the only thing he needs. He hasn't seen every coverage. He hasn't seen every defense, you know, what defense can throw at him. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't even seen all of his routes from, you know, that you can throw in the NFL. He hasn't threw them all. So, you know, that all that stuff comes with time. The more games he plays, the more he's going to let it out. The more he's going to get to see more. The more he's going to have film to study more about. And I'm telling you guys, by next year, he's going to be a dog. He's already a dog, but he's really going to be a dog by next year. You know, having the offseason to look over a whole year's worth of film, man, it's going to be crazy watching that boy grow. And he said that, I seen Ready Red say something about, oh, the Chiefs only had 19 points and Patty Mahomes had 0. Well, Dak didn't have no touchdowns either. Didn't y'all score 3 field goals that game?
I don't know if it was you, Ready Red, but somebody did just say earlier, a win's a win, a loss is a loss.
Yeah.
the end of
And
the
that's
day,
really
man.
what it comes down to. That's why
Look, we know you guys have a stud at corner. Like I graded him highly when I did my draft profiles in 2020. I graded him highly. I said he's a pretty good player.
to be honest,
He's still a pretty good player. Yeah, no. I'm talking about Dak. I'm talking about corner, not quarterback. Corner.
Oh.
But I mean, you guys got a playmaker in your secondary. Like, yeah, he's a good football player, man. I think he leads the league in interceptions by a mile right now. But it's more than just one player on the defense, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that because we've suffered through really subpar corner play and really subpar linebacker play for a long time while heavily investing in the D line. And it seems like we finally are starting to figure out there's got to be more balance than that.
He said he's talking about our defense. He said, I'm talking about our defense that y'all say was soft. Think about it. D-Law gets all that money. How many sacks he gets? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of players on your roster that's supposed to be so great, but they do not get the stats to back it up. We're dealing with that with Fletcher Cox right now. You know what I'm saying? We're like, hey, Fletch, we pay you a lot of money. We love you. We don't really want you to go nowhere. We just want you to produce. And I'm pretty sure you guys can say that about a lot of players on your defense. Yes, Parsons having a great year. Mm-hmm. Yes, Diggs is having a great year. But like he said, two people on the team. It doesn't matter. Two people on anybody's team is not going to make a defense. It's a team sport. You need all the guys to do their job. And right now, you got Parsons and Diggs. And Diggs even gets burnt sometimes too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen some touchdowns thrown on Diggs before this year.
I mean, which should concern you, which is the same thing that concerned us, is when we came out, we tried to play you guys and we tried to play Kansas City. We tried to throw the ball over the field as if we had the actual offensive skill set to do that. You guys tried to do the same approach with Kansas City, and it led to an L instead of leaning on where you would have had the advantage, which was trying to control the clock and keep that team off the field and leaning heavier into your running game. There's just no excuse when you look through the numbers, man, and you're looking at, Zeke, and you're looking at, Pollard, and those guys have less than 20 touches combined. There's no excuse for that. It shouldn't happen, man. Like, it's the same mistake that we were making.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same exact mistake we were making earlier.
Facts. And that's why I said, we get it. They were running the ball a lot. That's why they were winning all those games. They stopped running when Dak started getting more and more healthier. They started going into a more passing offense. And then it doesn't help when your receivers are getting hurt. Gallup goes down. Even this game you guys got tomorrow, you guys are going in that game without Cooper and Lamb. Like, that's huge. Your best two receivers. Now you're going to go in there starting Gallup and Wilson, I think, right?
Jalen Williams, I agree with you, man. I actually do agree with that D-Law is a top 3 defensive end when it comes to the run. I agree with that. He's really good against the run. The rest of their D-line, unfortunately, is not. To me, that was your biggest problem, man. It was the lack. It was the lack of approach to the game plan. It was the lack of details to it to understand. You shouldn't really be trying to get into this shootout with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, even though in some ways you kept them under 20 points, and you're feeling like, well, we had a shot. But you know what? If you would have ran the ball and kept more balance, you might have had the game might have been a lot closer than that. I mean, I think you guys came in with the exact wrong approach to try to play them. And that should worry you. That should worry you that this team, as good as it can be running the football, can get away from it that heavily when there's this much disparity with Lamb down, Cooper down. Like, come on, man. Somewhere in your mind, I know that has to bother you.
That's you.
Hey, Gabe, I got a question about the draft. What do you think about taking a wide receiver with one of the first-round picks? Someone like Garrett Wilson. It's hard to say, Joey Z. I'm not deep into evaluations quite yet. It kind of starts this upcoming week is when I really start breaking down and doing evaluations. Because pretty much after this week, you'll be getting into a lot of the conference championship games and stuff like that. So you get time to really catch up on a lot of the evaluations. We've invested so much at wide receiver, man. I mean, the past 3 years, we've spent a second-round pick and 2 first-round picks.
But I even thought about that too. If we get all
Yeah.
three of them, if we can get two game changers on the defense with the first two picks, if there's a nice receiver on that third pick, whichever it is, probably going to be ours the way we're going right now. I'm not saying it is, but it looks like it's more going to be our original pick that we could go somewhere for. Maybe like I said, it's Wilson. London from USC is another big body receiver that's looking good out there.
Yeah.
But I really want our first three picks to be defense. Really, no, I was telling 500 Shakes yesterday. I wanted to go either DN, linebacker, safety. If we can get those three at the first three picks, like if we can pull Hamilton with that middle pick, maybe if there's a quarterback run, because there's a lot of teams that needs quarterbacks. That always pushes everybody to the front. You know what I'm saying? Where the quarterbacks go off the board first. And that might slide Thibodeau's enough back to grab him.
Yeah.
If we can pull something like that off, get Thibodeau's, then get Hamilton, and then whatever the top linebacker at that time is, bust those out with the first three picks.
So, Joey Z, I think number one, like I'd have to see what the offseason holds and what they do. It's hard to evaluate exactly what your teams or needs are going to be right now. I will say that I get concerned with some of the money aspects of spending so much money in the first round on rookies at one position group because, I'm not saying that receivers cost that much. And of course, where you pick in the first round drastically changes the valuation and the cost of the pick. But unless, I don't know, man. I just think that unless we fill a lot of gaps defensively, man, there's a lot on the D line that has to happen between Fletcher Cox pretty much either being gone after this year or really only having one more year, one last kind of hurrah here in Philadelphia. Brandon Graham, he's going to be like 34 next year coming off of an injury, a pretty significant one. Still want the guy back. I mean, he's incredible. But, you always got to worry about a guy gets up in age like that. Then you look at, we got Josh Sweat, who should remain here. Kerrigan's definitely out. So you got Josh Sweat, you got Hargrave. We know those two are there. Teron Jackson has played well, but I mean, can he be a second or a third guy? I doubt it. Milton Williams is still kind of coming up. He's a really good interior pass rusher. I think he can give you some run. He can give you some run production as a 5 technique or a 4-eye playing outside. You just, you got to use a lot of effort. I mean, Milton Williams gives a ton of effort. He's a high effort guy, but he's got to anchor and hold better on the interior, to be quite honest, at the 3 and 2-eye and stuff like that. I would focus more so on that defensive line, and then like even Slay. Slay's 31, I believe. Slay's our highest paid player next year. Outside of Slay, Steven Nelson won't be back. I mean, we spent a ton of low end resources at corner. We spent a 4th round pick, which is I'm gonna call that a premier pick, but it's not like a bottom pick either, on Zach McPherson. And then we've traded for guys.
Tay Gowan.
Tay Gowan, but that's it's a 6th round guy. I still think you need pieces in the secondary. Then you look at both our safeties, man. Both our safeties are on 1-year deals. McLeod's gone after this year. He's playing really well. And I'm not opposed to bringing him back, but you need to have answers behind him. The young guys are Marcus Epps and Kavon Wallace. And Marcus Epps looks like a reasonable 3. I don't know if he's starting quality yet, though. I mean, that's an entirely different debate. Kavon Wallace, I thought might show us something this year, but he's been injured, so
that's why I really want Hamilton. I want Hamilton more than anybody. And you got to look at with one of those first 3 picks, we might have to go get a lineman again.
Yeah.
Because you look at the big 3 linemen. Kels might not come back. It's possible but he keeps saying he's going to retire. We don't know. He might come back one more year. Who knows? Depends how deep we get, how he's feeling, whatever. But Kels might not be back. We got to let go Brooks. You know what I'm saying? Like, for Brooks, this is the 3rd year in a row not playing. Like, you can't keep a guy that gets that kind of money on your roster when you're only getting 3-4 games out of him. And then Lane Johnson, let's see if his ankle holds up throughout the rest of the way. He's been having injury, but I think if Lane stays healthy throughout, then you can look at like 2-3 more years from Lane, as long as that ankle holds up. But, you don't even know what his mind frame is in terms of wanting to play that much longer either. So you might as well get into we got some good backups, Driscoll, Herbert, You know what I'm saying? Sayamalo will be back. So I personally think we should keep Landon at left guard. Let Sayamalo do what we got him for in the first place and back up, be that center. Because that's when we first got him. We got him to be a center. When we thought Kels was going to retire years ago. So let him go ahead and be the center. Let Landon stay over there. You can slide Herbert into guard, and then let Jack be the swing tackle. We're good, but it'd be good to get another young, top quality lineman in that rotation. Because who knows what we're going to do with
linebacker. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they're set at linebacker. I mean, I really like T.J. Edwards a lot. And I think Davion Taylor has a really high ceiling. But I don't know that that's, what I'm saying? I don't know that they still don't want a more of an impact player there. But then again, knowing this front office and how cheap they've been at that position group, I have no faith that they'll take anyone in the first or second round there either.
3 picks for sure. Yeah. I think we have to be honest.
But I look at corner, man, and I do get a little iffy on corner, man, because, Slay doesn't have that many years left in Philly. And he's been really good here. But I wonder, man. I just wonder because, we haven't saw that much from McPherson. We really haven't. Steven Nelson's certainly not a long-term answer, I don't think. At least I don't think he is. I mean, Tay Gowan, I like this tape. I did. But, we're talking about a guy that opted out last year, and he only played 1 year of D1 ball at UCF. So, I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, developmentally, I'm not sure where he is in terms of the NFL. Like, that's a really hard, I liked all the physical attributes to Tay Gowan, but I'm not too sure where he stacks in terms of that. In terms of knowledge.
What about the other one we picked up?
We picked a guy up from Jacksonville that kind of plays. He's really he's a short zone guy too. He plays a lot of short zone. He's built like a nickel, but he likes to play outside. And Josiah Scott. And then we picked up another guy. I think he's got safety versatility. I can't think of his name though, but I thought he was the kid that had safety versatility. The kid that came out of LSU, the young man from LSU. Somebody in the comment will know his name. They'll know his name. Because I know a lot of people were pretty pumped that we got him. But we picked him up at the trade deadline, actually.
Yeah.
Looking at guys, but I got to let everything kind of load up. And Kerry Vincent Jr.
Kerry Vincent Jr., yeah.
Yeah.
I see they were saying maybe how he's using those pieces, develop them this year, since they probably won't see the field too much, and then next year bring him out there. Because there's some big body guys out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got potential. We just got to develop that potential and see throughout the offseason will that potential come to, starter. And we got McPherson, like you said, too, who, he's starting to get some playing time. You know what I'm saying? So he could probably be a lot better next year, too, as well. Like I said, if it was up to me, Hamilton, either that Smith, Nolan Smith, or even Dean. I like Dean from Georgia, too. That's another linebacker I might consider getting, either one of those two guys. And then a lineman. And then, we still got, 5 picks in the top 50? Regardless of.
I mean, right now, we're getting really close to getting that third first-round pick locked in. It's real close. I almost don't want to mention how close it is because I don't want to jinx anything. But we're pretty close to getting that pick locked in. Once that pick's locked in, then, you're looking at 4 picks, probably going to be in the top 60. 4 picks in the top 60. So, definitely they'll be in the top 63 or so. Yeah. So, and you look at that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you'll have opportunities.
I want 4 of them to be defense, 1 to be lineman.
Well, they'll have, you look at, I don't know, see what their picks are, but weighed out, 64. They're going to have 5 top 100 picks. That's for certain, because I'm pretty sure we still have our third-round pick. I don't think we traded that away. We will have 5 top 100 picks. Now, will you use all 5 of those picks? I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like they're probably going to identify a few guys they want. They're going to move up and down the board to kind of get who they want. That's what I would think. Now, I also think it depends on where they fall. We don't know where that Miami pick's going to be. We have no clue where the Indianapolis pick's going to be. We don't even know where our own pick's going to be at this point.
Facts.
We might be in the playoffs, or we might be on the outside looking in and be in the teens somewhere.
We're going to playoffs. Now, we might be that 7th seed, or we might be higher. I don't know where, we're gonna be seeded in the playoffs, but I have a feeling we're going to playoffs this year. You know,
Yeah.
I think the schedule helps us out there. You know, like I said, I can't see more than one loss. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, Eagle fan, or whatever, but I don't see more than one. I can say that
They
it's a
just need an
possibility we
impact
lose
player.
again, but
Mhm.
when and where, that's a whole nother question.
I got you, man. To me, and we'll close it out by this, guys, because I really appreciate BIRDGANG for coming on here, man. He's hung out tough with me. We're just going to kind of close out some closing statements here. I honestly think, from the Eagles' perspective, finding that key player on defense could do a lot. Chase Young and Deron Darren Williams, Deron Williams, whatever his name is, or Deron Payne. I'm sorry, guys. The things that Washington did to get their impact players along the D line, right? So where when Chase Young goes out, they still have a lot of impact players on that line, even though their edge depth right now is not the greatest. I think the Eagles need that kind of guy, man. We need that impact player defensively. It could be in the secondary, it could be a linebacker, it could be along the line. I think you could use it at all three levels defensively, which is a nice place for the Eagles to be because, like, to me, if you're sitting there, you just need to identify, are there 5 or 6 defensive guys in this draft that you consider to be true impact players? If you identify 5 or 6 of them, you got to go get one because you could use it in almost every position group and every level of the defense. You could use an impact player. So, I mean, to me, I would just simplify it. If I was the front office, simplify it. We need to have 3 or 4 guys because you don't know which guy you're going to get because, you need trading partners. You need all kinds of stuff to maneuver draft boards. You need to identify a few guys, identify who that one guy is you think you have the range to go get. I think you go get him, in my opinion. I mean, because I do think that we need that impact player. And I know people, look, I think there's going to be good talent in the wide receiver room that you can get in the mid rounds. I don't think it's like if you don't get a guy in the first round, it's a complete bust this year. Like, I think there are decent players that, decent possession boundary side kind of guys that would add to
and
this
even
offense.
Drake London, he got a leg injury. That's probably going to push him to that second round.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a guy that, can come in and, get you 40, 50 receptions in a season and be that kind of conversion guy, you don't really need that. You don't need a Devontae Smith type. You don't need, you know what I'm saying? You don't need that type. You just need a guy that's dependable, has a good wingspan, can play the boundary side, and can convert, in my opinion. That's really what the offense is missing. I know I saw your comment, Jalen. I just didn't read it because we're about to get off here and we'll be in this conversation for the next 3 hours if I bring it up fully. I hear what you're saying about Devontae Smith. I think he does need he needs a co-partner. But I think if you get him that co-partner, he can become that marquee player that he really is kind of, I think, trending towards. I don't think, like my thing is Jalen, I don't think he'll ever be a wide receiver 2 here. I think he'll always be wide receiver 1 if you're going by the targets.
Yeah.
But if you're going by boundary versus, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think you need an actual boundary. Now, I will say, the thing that stinks about stuff is that if you have a guy that's playing the flanker, and I got a video coming up on Jalen Reagor, guys. I got your votes in, guys. I've been telling, I'm editing the video. Just give me time, guys, and I got you. I will say this: Jalen Reagor is partially suffering because he's playing flanker, and if you're playing the flanker and it's a far hash throw and you're running a timing route, if you don't win early in your route, you get removed from consideration. That's part of the problem. So if a team comes down and presses you, takes you out early on a timing route that's a far hash throw, you have absolutely no shot at getting the football. It's not going to happen. The quarterback's moving on to the next read without a doubt. And I do think that the coaching staff, the quarterback, and the player all need to get together because I do think that I think Jalen Reagor is better against off coverage than people think. I think when you see Jalen Reagor against off coverage, he should be getting more consideration because I do think he's a lot better against off coverage than he is against press. When he's playing press, man, he's got a lot of development left. Guys. I'm not, you guys know I'm a Jalen Reagor guy, even though famously I did bypass him in my draft. I didn't take a receiver. You guys remember until you guys were getting mad. I kept trading down so much in the 2020 draft. You guys remember that draft of, man? Mike was yelling and he's like, "Hey, we got to pick eventually."
All right.
But I mean, I'm all about acquiring picks, man, because I think I can identify talent if you just give me time. But my thing is that you got to have progression from these receivers. I do think we need a boundary side receiver. I think if you move a guy like Devontae Smith and you get a true boundary side, then you can play kind of like Where's Waldo with Devontae Smith, because you can line him up on the boundary at times. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up as a flanker. Not that you can't do that already, but you can do it with more consistency.
Like we need the Macklin to Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah. I do think that we need a guy that can come in here and be dependable. Don't think we have that guy in the wide receiver room. Don't know if that's going to be a veteran guy. I don't know if it's going to be a draft pick, guys. My gut instinct tells me they've spent a lot of draft capital on wide receivers. You're far more likely to get a veteran. That's what my gut tells me. Because when you think about it, Hightower, Watkins, Rager, JJ, Devontae Smith, like we spent a lot of draft capital on wide receivers.
Yeah.
I got a feeling.
Keep going at it well until you get it right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all so much, man. We want to come on and say, number one, happy Thanksgiving, guys. If you don't hear from us tomorrow,
happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. Be safe out there. Eat a lot of good turkey food.
Day. Enjoy the games.
Yeah.
Dallas fans, we appreciate y'all coming on. Come talk to me, man. You got my channel. It's Gate City Sports. Come talk to me. If y'all beat Vegas, we can talk.
Yeah, you guys make sure you're back every Wednesday night. We are going to be doing this. It's Around the League with Gate City and BIRDGANG. We're going to talk about some key things that's going on in the league. Key players, key things that we see. But we're also going to give you a little Eagle talk too as well. That always seems to always come back into the mix. But we definitely going to give you guys a lot of breakdowns and stuff like that for the rest of the season. So come check us out. If you're not subscribed to BIRDGANG 31, go ahead and subscribe. The link is inside the chat. If you're not subscribed to Gate City, his link is inside the chat. And also, if you're not subscribed to BGN Sports Media, please hit that subscribe button. That link is also in the chat. It'd be a lot. We're really trying to grow this channel. It actually over the last week, we grew like 25 subs. So we're moving pretty fast. We got a lot of good content on there. And you guys don't want to miss out. Be a part of the family.
Yes, sir. And guys, we're going to get to everybody. So Deontay, calling you guys that are in here that are Cowboy fans, we will have, we'll get to Dallas and stuff, and we'll do it around the league. Like we're trying to do every team. It's just that I thought this was a pretty good time to bring up Washington just because of the uniqueness of their situation with injuries and the reshaping of their offense and kind of the late season success that they're kind of rising to, because I feel like the Eagles are kind of dominating the headlines in that, but Washington is very quietly kind of doing that as well. So I wanted to make sure here at BGN, we did discuss that. So
yes, sir.
Guys, we will see you next week. We will try to release these topics ahead of time, but keep in mind, I have to have enough time to watch film. I have to go through and look over some of the advanced analytics. So it'll probably be like Tuesday night notice, guys. It won't be like, I can't give it to you like Sunday night, guys. I wish I could, but the turnarounds, that's just too fast of a turnaround for that. But maybe at the earliest, I could get it to you Tuesday morning or Monday night. Just depends on how fast things get released. But we appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, have a good night.
Appreciate you co-piloting with me, man.
No problem, my guy. Have a good night, guys. Happy Turkey Day. We out. Peace.
We're out, guys. Gobble, gobble.